says connect. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for this panel session. I want you to see it as all of us in a Costa Coffee having a chat together. The four of us are going to start the conversation, but I really want the questions from the floor to come in as we go along so that you can join in and ask what you want from the four of us today. I've got three fantastic panelists, and in a moment, I'm going to ask themselves to introduce themselves. Our panelists today is Naomi, Alea, and Lame. And without further ado, Naomi, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself for a minute?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Naomi Mcgregor, the founder and CEO of MoveTrue. And as of today's official announcement, I am Innovate UK and KTN's Women in Innovation for this year. MoveTrue is a wearable device to help reduce rehabilitation time, specifically for ACL, or anterior cruciate ligament in your knee. And I am really excited to be here as a very strong, passionate woman in STEM to share my journey with you all.
Thank you very much. And congratulations, of course. You must be feeling really pleased today. How does it feel?
It feels like I've had the secret to hide since Christmas. I'm like, yes, I could finally tell people because I'm the worst at secrets.
Well, you must have told somebody. There must be somebody in your life, your nearest and dearest, that you said, shh, keep this to yourself. But
oh, yeah, well, I'm not that good. I've told them all as soon as it happened. They all knew.
Now we can go bold and proud and tell everybody, can't we? So let's see some congratulations for Naomi coming in on the chat. But while that's coming up, Alea, I'd like to bring you in and for you to introduce yourself to the room, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, a big thank you to the KTN team for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be sat alongside these incredibly and talented women and share today with everybody that's in the room. So my name's Alea. I was raised in Wales and I moved to Bristol to study law at the University West of England, where I founded First Gens during my last year of university. And a little bit about First Gens. First Gens is a national award-winning student service. We're on a mission to support talented students from underrepresented backgrounds, particularly those amongst the first in their family to attend university. And we empower students to navigate higher education, unlock their full potential, and secure a graduate career. And we do this by delivering an ecosystem of support to undergraduate students by partnering with universities and companies across the UK.
That's something I can completely relate to. I was first generation to university in my family, and it's one of these things that I can look back that the bewilderment of my parents at the thought of somebody going to university and the stuff that they just couldn't comprehend. It's amazing, isn't it? And, you know, I look back and I wondered why we were so perplexed and confused and, dare I say, scared. And so I think it's really fantastic that you've got that going, and we want to hear more of that as we go through. And this is where we have our first little hiccup in the coffee shop, because it says lost connection to Lame. So Lame, I'm going to see if you're there. No, Lame's going to join us. We've got a bit of an internet issue. She's going to come and join us in a moment. So we're going to jump to our first question. And when Lame comes in, we'll introduce her properly for the sake of everybody in the room. And my first question, Naomi, I'm going to start off with you, if I may. And that is, we live in a world where being considered average is, you know, a boring, almost an insult, isn't it? And yet, I would dare say that all of us have got different superpowers and the capability to be amazing because of the different backgrounds that we've got. And so the first question I'm going to ask yourself is, what element of you is not average and we want to be proud and loud about?
Well, for my university, I did the first ever degree that combined engineering and ballet. So that was my superpower.
Engineering and ballet?
Yeah. So I started ballet at 4, and that's actually where my business idea came from. And I was able to combine what actually the engineering terms of your physical body in sport, and compare that with ballet dancers and American rugby players and football players, and see how well that actually correlates. And that has led me down this innovative journey that my passion of ballet got to actually go into the world of STEM, which was great.
So I am completely fascinated. So what can you tell us about the connection between a rugby player and ballet from an engineering point of view?
We have the same rate of occurrence for injury placement in our knees per number of hours that we play.
Of course.
So the impact on our knees and ankles is actually the same. So a ballet dancer is having the same injury rate, and there's a massive funding difference as well. So we can see why the arts is underfunded and how we could actually use engineering and medicine to help them. And that's where I'm hoping to come in to get an affordable solution, and where rugby players actually have physiotherapists and doctors a lot of the time at every game, which means that they can get diagnosed at a much earlier time.
And does that also have the benefit of later in life that you can look at, say, other illnesses? I'm thinking of arthritis, and try and take the learnings that you're taking from these younger folk, that's not quite the right phraseology, apologies to the room, but people from that stage where you studied them and apply it to later on in life?
Absolutely, because things like repetitive strain injury, we can see it, and we can see that there's no need to go to the doctor for a 10-minute appointment whenever we actually needed to go to a physio and get them to see how we're moving. And that's like one of my big inspirations was between ballet and also my granddad had a knee surgery because he had no cartilage left in his knee. And at 75 years old, he didn't want to travel 2-3 hours for a 10-minute appointment. And that's where we really need to go forward, that we're making all ages feel comfortable at home, and that we're doing social good with preventing your age being a barrier to healthcare.
Fantastic. And I hope you've seen the congratulation messages, Naomi, that have been coming through. While you're reading the congratulation messages, Alia, same question for you. What would you consider your superpower to be that's come about, over your place in the world?
Yeah, so I was really interested by this question when you're speaking about moving on from something that's more average, and it took me a moment to kind of ponder on the perspective and interpretation of what average is, and it came to light for me that you could be a student who you come from a low participation neighborhood, who go entering higher education, who may have kind of illegal activities going on your street, or the flats being super loud at the end of your road, and somebody coming from that background going into higher education and going on to secure a professional graduate role in, say, one of the magic law firms. That is an average for somebody who's coming from a specific environment, but if you look at it from a perspective of somebody whose generations of parents went to higher education, parents and family went to higher education, maybe that move into a professional graduate role and go into higher education isn't seen as average. So it kind of I had to ponder on the question at first, and for me, leaving an average life is leaving something that is has built norms for you and expectations and traditions, and leaving for something that's more risky and uncertain. And I think that we all do have superpowers and something that we can bring to the world, and sometimes you just need to be encouraged or influenced to break that cycle of what your interpretation of average is. And for me, it really has been a journey to embody what I see as my superpowers now. It definitely wasn't an overnight thing. But what I see for myself at the moment is my empathy and real care of wanting to have a positive impact on people, a passion to learn, and also to take risk, I would say. But they were all things that needed to be nurtured. So yeah, that's those are my superpowers, I'd say.
I think there's something interesting though around the risk element, isn't there? That when people don't understand the risk that you're taking, first generation going to university or going into a skilled profession like law, it's difficult for some people, and these are sweeping generalizations, which is kind of ironic, isn't it? But there is a bit of a risk that because people don't understand what the downside could be, that it gets overplayed in their heads and it ends up dragging you down and making it a little bit harder. So I think that normalization of seeing people doing it helps along the journey, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where representation really comes into play.
Yeah, I've just seen we've had a comment coming in from Wendy that says that her boys, when they were playing rugby, used to get told off that they're not playing netball. And it didn't go down with Wendy. Well, it shouldn't go down with anybody very well, really, should it? I mean, it's funny how these things sort of get become a turn of speech and just end up sort of sitting with you for a while, don't they? The next thing I want to touch upon, while I'm hoping we get a few more questions, is being working in technology innovation. It's a tough gig, and we know that we're going to struggle and things are going to go wrong. And so outside the technology that we're working on, because I'm really interested in the human side of people today, and because I think that's very transferable amongst the room, is what are you proud of being first of? And so, Alea, I want to start off with you. And what are your personal firsts that you feel so proud about?
Yeah, definitely what springs to mind first is being amongst the first in my family to attend university.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to navigate higher education, graduate recruitment by myself, having no directional guidance at the beginning, which ultimately, didn't enable me to hit the ground running. And I was behind compared to my peers, and I had to hustle. I had to learn quick and work hard and smart in order to be, a serious candidate compared to my peers during my time at university. And I guess the benefits of being a trailblazer and doing something for the first time is that you really do learn to build resilience and that tenacity and innovation, and you have to just find solutions to problems. I just came across so many problems being a trailblazer.
And if I pushed you for the problem, you talk about you came across problems, and that's human, isn't it? What would be the problem that pops into your mind?
First thing that pops to my mind is the lack of network, professional network, especially what was.
Now, carry on developing that. I'm agreeing. I love the whole thought, isn't it? We take that for granted, don't we? And as we go through our working career, you realize how powerful it is. And the challenge I face around it is, how do you manage a professional network in such a way that it doesn't become a variation of the old boys club, which is something that I'll speak for myself. I don't want to put words in anybody else's mouth. The idea of the old boys club is something that doesn't sit well with me. And I think for me, the difference is there's a difference between a professional network based on your capability and a professional network based on a label, which could be school, gender, skin color, location, geography. And I think it's that capability that should stand proud in your professional network. What are your thoughts on that, Alea?
Yeah, I think it's imperative to have a diverse network and actively look to build a diverse network. It not only helps you in the long run because there's people who are gatekeepers, there's people who are good at connecting, there's people who are good at sharing valuable information, and the diversity you need in different types of people will elevate you. But also, you can use that network for other people that who are coming from different backgrounds, for example, and you can help plug in that different information or resources or support. So yeah, the importance of diversity within your network is definitely integral.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to take a slight step back because I can see Lame has joined. Lame, are you able to at least introduce yourself in the nicest possible way?
I'm going to try before it kicks me out again. I'm having serious technical challenges this morning.
Oh. How long do we wait? I think we've lost the line. It feels a bit like 1970s news here when we're trying to get through. So Naomi, can I take the same question to you? What are the things that you're proud of, your firsts?
Well, I actually really relate to that because I was the first from my family to go to university. And
wow, that's all three of us.
Yeah. So
when you start to have these conversations, you realize that there's so many people who come from similar backgrounds, and you just need that representation of, wow, they're doing amazing things, and so can I.
Exactly. And that was the big thing. And I find it funny at the start of my entrepreneurial journey, like my family all work, but we don't have a wad of cash sitting at the back of the sofa. And people said, just get your friends and family to give you money. And I said, well, what does that look like? And they said, you could easily raise like 200K from friends and family. And this is where I'm like, I don't know what type of friends and family you have. But
I used to be happy when they used to sponsor me, 10 pence a mile when I went running for 10 miles. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So with mine, like I was out one night in my garage. My parents have given me a set area that I'm fortunate that I have an area to work, and I was soldering away and it was like -2 degrees. And my mom came out and was like, I'll help you. And that's the fortunate that I have, that I'm really blessed that my family will get in and get their hands dirty. And I'm really lucky to have that. And so then it's just very different that sometimes you don't always have that thing. I didn't have the money, but I have the people that care and are there to support in any other way that they can.
But don't you think that's actually better than cash? The fact that people roll up their sleeves, because I can tell you when you're trying to achieve something, words are nice. Mm-hmm. It's completely different when somebody stands next to you to help you out. So I'll share a story, but finish yours, Naomi, before I go to that. So your family would roll up their sleeves and they would help pitch in and drive it forward.
Absolutely. And I think that's really where we're standing today. It's just to be in that level playing field, that somebody could judge me because I didn't do a friends and family investment round. And I have no intention of ever doing that, because that is so valuable. But in another way, they're giving me their time and their care. And
the emotional support, that deep. And I find you also trust your family and your good friends to tell you where you need to improve, as well as telling you you're all right, and they can intuitively switch. Because sometimes you just need to be told life is good for your own emotional strength, and other times you need to be told, actually, this needs improving.
Yeah, and I think that's quite good, because with my family, I can turn around and be like, not today, no advice, please. And then other days I can be like, just tell me, like, if you see issues, like, how can I improve? And that's what's been really valuable for my journey, is that you get advice. Like my grandparents, they don't have smartphones. So if I can explain my technology to them, then I know how to explain it.
Okay, so they're supplying that sort of human capability that you've got an in-house guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly.
In the nicest way, dear grandparents. And so, Lame, welcome back. Shall we try third time lucky? Shall we get the introduction in?
Apologies, not sure what's going on with my tech today. I've had to go on a different system. So, hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Lame Mcgregor. I'm the co-founder and co-chair of UK Registered Diversity and Inclusion Network. We anchor our ethos on 3 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, number 5, 7, and 13. And we're a gender diversity.
Sorry, Lame, for the sake of me.
I
mean, come on, I'm sorry, I don't carry them in my heart. And
I know. But all right, so we anchor on number 5, which is gender equality. That's why we're here today. We anchor on number 7, which is affordable and sustainable energy for all. And number 13 is the climate action. So we're really, I call it our golden triangle. And we support women across the spectrum of the energy sector, all the way from mining, where the earth minerals come, down to renewables and the electric vehicles in the big cities. So our main aim is really to empower women to achieve their goals and whatever success means to them. So we're not really about trying to get women to fit into the mold of modern day organizations, rather for women to find their own way to lead and grow and succeed. And so I tell organizations, if at some point we have to coach the women to leave your organization to be true to thyself, then that's what's going to happen. And so we're finding many women kind of breaking out and setting up their own ventures, but still supporting the energy spectrum. And so we just really feel like, it's the decade for women to really empower themselves and lean into that power of choice, rather than what the conditioning and social constructs.
I want you to give me a story. Give me an example where it's worked. Pick a person that you know and say, okay, this is what they did.
All right, so I can give you a couple, actually. So we've been running now for 15 months. And so right at the very beginning, we had a lady who had just left a major oil and gas company down in Australia. And she was kind of not sure what she wanted to do. And so she came to one of our programs. And basically at the end of the session or the program we had with her, she had decided that she was going to monetize her skill set and become a consultant. rather than trying to apply to go back into the corporate realm. Others have, through the work we do, have gone on to either renegotiate their day rate, renegotiate their salary, or ask for that promotion. So we support, when I say, so the women we support are in two kind of categories. So those trying to kind of go up the corporate ladder, or those who've left but are trying to develop businesses and ecosystems for themselves. So we've got quite a few who've gone on to take promotions, and others who've left and created businesses for themselves. And so we're really about the empowerment piece. For me, is the biggest.
So that's interesting. So it isn't, you must be upset with your life, could become entrepreneurial. You are helping them to go up the ladder, and they're given that choice. That's fascinating.
There's the power of choice, right? I think for me, the value proposition and the unique selling point is really around women recognizing the power of choice. I think, when you know that you have a choice, then even if you're in a workplace that is toxic and you're not thriving, but you can choose to stay because A, I want to finish this project, or B, it gets me closer to my next step, right? So, but really taking power back really is the what we're trying to do here.
There's been some really fascinating studies, haven't there, where they've said that people's emotional strength crumbles when they believe they have no choice. And if you can create a choice, no matter how artificial or how superficial it may feel, that the mental well-being is orders of magnitude stronger. And that's really a lot of evidence I've heard around that.
No, you're correct. And, I liken toxic work environment also to being in a toxic relationship. And the reasons why many women don't live a toxic relationship or a toxic corporate environment is the fact that they feel they have no choice. And that feeling of powerlessness keeps them in there longer than they need to be. And therefore, the work we do is really around creating the avenue for them to see. Because sometimes when you're down in the rut or kind of in the moment, it's difficult to see the trees from the woods. So we go through loads of coaching programs, we do mentoring, we do kind of peer-to-peer, so then you realize, actually, I'm not alone on this journey. And so just having someone else with you really, really push you out of your comfort zone to take the leap of faith sometimes. And that's all you need. What would you do if you're not afraid? Is one of our.
Now, that is the question. I'm going to throw this question to the room because I can see the chat window here. What would you do if you were not afraid? And I'm sorry, panelists, Lame has thrown a great question on the table. Can we think, what would we do if we were not afraid? For me, it was actually leaving the KTN and creating a company, for what it's worth. And so that's why I now do my thing, because I came not afraid. So any of my panelists want to jump in? Anybody from the room want to throw in anything? What would you do if you were not afraid? That is so thought-provoking, isn't it?
Well, I'm happy to jump in. The reason I started the business was because I was able to get enough funding that I could just handle 12 months and decline the grad job. That I was like, if I could just handle 12 months, that I don't need to ask my parents for money for to go to the shop to buy something simple and just get by. I don't need to be luxurious. I can decline the grad job and go for it.
But there's something really important that you've touched there, isn't there? I remember when we started that the ability to decide that today I was buying this, which could be a magazine, it could be a coffee, it could be absolutely anything. It's game changing, isn't it? And if you know anybody who's going through any process, I think giving them help, the best thing you can help them out is that if you want to buy yourself a bit of coffee, here you are, because it's so...
it's an independence.
Thank you, Naomi. That's what I'm looking for. I was out of words.
One of the topics we covered last year, for example, was around financial independence. And so we took that for a quarter because coming out of the pandemic and the energy crisis, we found that women were disproportionately impacted by all of those challenges. And so we took financial independence as the theme for Q1. And basically, it was really about, because we said we do not want to tell women to not buy the latte, but the question is, how can I buy more latte? And so it's not about the penny pitching and saving the pennies, but how do I create multiple streams of income? How do I expand my earning power? What can I do? Where am I leaving value on the table? As a female, am I renegotiating my salary, or did I negotiate well enough? Can I take on more projects? Can I monetize my side hustle? right? What are those things I do for friends for free because I'm the go-to person for a cake? But actually now you can sell that cake, even if it's a token, it's the value that you put to it that others will also ascribe to it. And so we took that on, and the feedback was phenomenal. So one of the first event was money mindset, and what's your relationship with money? How do you view it? You know, because we brought up money is not good, money is bad. You don't talk about money, but actually the reason why there's a gender big gap is because women don't talk about money. And so
Which is funny. In my family, it's the women who tend to control, I mean family as in wide family. It's the women who traditionally tend to control the family household budget.
Yes. Women are at home, we hold the purse string, we make big decisions in the household, but somewhere along the line, we get to the workplace and to the workforce, we lose that power. And something happened, and I'm not sure what, but
so you know what my horrible question is going to be? What happened? If anybody on the chat can tell us what's happened, the four of us around this table will be happy, won't we? And how do you feel? And the other thing I'm going to be, do you remember when you first asked for somebody to pay for your work or to pay for your product? Yeah, scary. Anybody? I tell you that, you know, and I still get scared when I quote for a piece of work, that the amount of anguish that goes into that number on the bottom of the page. Anybody feel that as well? Right. Any tips then on how do you cope with the anguish when you're writing a number on the bottom of the page to give to somebody?
Well, I can share a tip we shared with the women last year was write the number down and say it out loud enough that if it's in an interview situation or if you're filling a proposal, by the time you have to do that, it comes off a little bit more natural, right? So if you don't have a number in your head of what the value is and someone asks you what is the price, then it's always quite difficult to answer that question on the spot. So it's about doing your research, have the facts, know what your value is for whatever product or service you're offering, and then write it down and say it out loud multiple times until you get comfortable with it.
I feel, and I feel part of it is 9 times out of 10, because I hate saying absolutes, it's never price that you get chosen on. They choose you on your capability, your network, your availability, the fact that you were not grumpy when you said hello to them or some variation of that theme. And it's rare that it's really, really just price. And if only you were 10 pence cheaper, you would have got it. Because I've also discovered that if only you were 10 pence cheaper, and that's a made up number, everybody, they normally come back and tell you if they want you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so go higher, and it's horrible. And I struggle to have the confidence to do it, knowing that they'll come and ask you if that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. John, if I just quickly jump in, Ian, with regards to that, I think, you know, it's something that I've been doing because I'm on such a early stage of my career. As I mentioned earlier, I've just recently graduated university and I've started selling services. And that's something that, you know, I've had to deal with very recently is, you know, being confident in my value and what I'm offering. And something I've had to start doing is literally saying it as a mantra before I press the send in the email, is saying to myself, you're here to add value. And I think, you know, it may take a little bit of internal work at the beginning just to understand, you know, exactly what you're bringing to the table, you know, how much hours you're putting in, how much value you're bringing to them and other people, and being confident in that step. And like you said, go higher, and you'll be surprised most of the time. They'll say yes.
Yeah. And even your hire might even be cheaper than the budget because you don't know what their budget is. So it's better not to assume that they don't have the budget for it. Just make your ask and then you take it from there.
Yeah, work with it from there.
Yeah.
And when you're having the initial discussions, I find where somebody says, what do you do? Don't be afraid to say, what budget did you expect for this? And you find surprising honesty from the other side, because if you put the question in, you know, most people are decent and honest is what I've discovered, and they will help you out that way. We've got a bunch of people asking how do they connect to us, and a bunch of people saying hello and welcome. Just checking the texts quickly. Right, my next question on my list, this is going back to our little script that we've got, and I'm putting this to the room and I'll read out good answers. How do we dig deep? We've just been talking about asking people to put down a price and feeling comfortable. But innovation is a horrible journey in that stuff goes wrong and we have confidence problems. How do you get personal strength for when you feel it isn't going your way to keep perspective and dig deep and keep going forward? And the side question that's related is, and how do you know when it's time to stop? Because sometimes we don't stop and we carry on digging ourselves into deeper and deeper holes. Dear panelists, anybody want to jump up first and answer that question? Naomi, you're smiling. I'm going to take that as a yes, otherwise we have silence. And then Lane smiled as well.
It's because whenever you're online, you always have that pause now instead of being in a coffee shop. So whenever I'm doing it, I really have to think like, okay, where was I 6 months ago? And I find it quite funny that whenever I started the business, I sometimes look back at the slide decks and what I wrote and I go, oh, wow, okay, I have come on places. And that's a really big motivator. And also like finding out how you've impacted other people. And remembering, is my work doing good?
Yep.
And I think that's a really big, strong one, especially from today, is that we're seeing that we just want to do good for other people. And if we're doing that and we're providing for them and providing for ourselves, then it's a big motivator and time to remind ourselves that we should continue. And if you decide it's no longer serving you, then it's also okay to stop. And I think that's really important, is that you say yes to the opportunities, but you also have to learn to say no if you're wearing yourself too thin, if you're signing up to too many things, if you actually don't agree with the task that you've been assigned. And I think it's really important to remember, what are my values? And writing them down really does help, just to be able to reflect to them whenever you need it.
So, yep, I've got some, I'll show you, but I want to come to Lame first, because I did say that you got anything. Okay, so what I do, Naomi, is during the year when something positive happens, and it could be anything, yeah, it's just something that puts a smile on my face, I write it on a little business card type piece of thing, and it goes in a box that we have on the fireplace. And on New Year's Day, we pull down that box and go through these little happy cards that tell us that, you know, remember we got that order, remember when this, and that's my little treasure box of stuff to pick me up when I need a little pickup. And the other thing that I do before I do on a long project, and I urge this for anybody who goes fundraising, I write down what I think success looks like and what I think my walkaways are. And the day before I sign anything big like the investment, is I take that out, because I'll tell you I would have crossed some of those red lines, because if you've ever gone fundraising, it's 1,000 paper cuts that you pick up on the way. And it's me discussing with rational Ian from before it started, and I go, am I still happy with this? And it's always yes, invariably. And then it leaves me with the last point that goes, whenever stuff goes wrong, I remind myself that I made the best rational decision with the information I had at the time, and now I'm going to deal with it. It's not my fault. Lame, did you want to jump in, or am I jumping?
Yeah, no, I mean, just to echo the point you just made. So what we kind of, when we work with women, is around having that North Star. So what is the why? Why did you go embark on this journey in the first place?
Yeah.
And, you know, when things go wrong, you know, the question is, it's not about whether you fail, but what is the lesson that you've learned from it, and how is that serving the ultimate purpose and goal of your innovation or the work you're doing? And just remembering that. And, you know, that gratitude journal is also one that we use, you know, to make sure that you also write the good things down, because we tend as humans to amplify the bad and forget all the little wins that we just had 6 months ago. But this one event, it's, you know, becoming a big cloud across that. So just really coming back to the why every time, I think it's a really nice way to anchor yourself to the ground, because you will be, you know, mesmerized and whirlwind, and, you know.
Well, and today's problems, because, well, when we're thinking about today's problems, they always feel overwhelming. And then in the future, you look back and you smile and go, what was that again? Alia, have you got something to chip in, my friend?
Yeah, so for my days where, you know, things haven't gone as well, or, you know, I may be a little doubtful, on those days that just happen because we're human, I have started, similarly to you, when I do have a good day or a small success, I'll pop that on a piece of paper on a post-it note, and I pop it in a jar. And then I've only started doing it this year, but I'm planning on New Year's to kind of, reveal all the wins and have a moment to myself and just remember what I achieved and celebrate that. You need to celebrate those successes. Otherwise, you're constantly thinking about the big deals, the big contracts, the partners, and you can often kind of forget about the small things that you're doing along the way that really, kind of accelerated you to those moments. And you need to be proud and remember those things that you've done and worked hard for to get to where you are.
And you worked hard. And when you work hard, you sometimes lose the vision around you, don't you? Because it's, the blinkers are on and it's plowing ahead. So my next question for us all really is, I know on my journey, I've been helped by many people to get me where we are, and we've been touching upon that. I want to go around the room and sort of say, who do you remember helping you? Who are those people that have stuck there? And the reason we're doing this is to encourage everybody to help, because it does get remembered in the future and it helps other people go forward, and it's that pay it forward. So Lame, would you like to start off this one with, who do you remember helping you in your life?
Oh my God, mine, it's quite a few people. So what I tend to call them my personal board of directors, and you acquire them along your journey, and each one comes in a different stage of the journey of life and of your business. So just ensure that as you go through the journey, that you always have trusted people who are objective, not the naysayers. You always have naysayers, even sometimes.
It's getting that balance
within your closest circle, but having these trusted advisors, I think, is invaluable, because it can be lonely as an inventor, as an entrepreneur. And so you need to surround yourself with, like-minded people on similar journey, people who are more advanced in the journey, right? So because you need the diversity of thoughts across, the spectrum of activities that you're doing and decisions you have to make.
And I also say, Lame, that your nearest and dearest gets fed up of hearing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not being disrespectful to anybody else's nearest and dearest, but
there's a lot of sentiment, and they're too close to the conversation. Yeah. And so sometimes, in as much as they mean well, they're probably not the best placed to help you on this journey. And so you need to find them outside of your normal watering hole. And sometimes it's your second, third degree connections that you will find these advisors and journey members.
And I also find, if you approach CEOs or CXOs of companies that are the next level up from you or two, they remember being you.
Yeah.
And that little reach out that says, hi, could we have a CEO coffee to sort something out? I've never had it rejected.
Yeah.
Because people know what it's like. So I'm going to bounce down to Alea with the same question, and then Naomi, I'll pop round to you. So Alea, who do you recall helping you over your time on this journey, and what advice would you give the room?
Yeah, so thinking about it, so many people have helped lifted me up and to be where I am now, and it's so hard to choose somebody, but I'll go with the first person who I told about my idea who wasn't a family or friend. And I really just wanted to get a reaction, like to see if it was a good idea, was it worthwhile. And from not only were they encouraging of the idea, but they said, here's my contact, if you ever need me, I'm here. And they really lived up to that. And whenever I had a problem, I was on the phone, email, they're always there. And that same person, kind of 12-month cycle, was the same person who got me my first paying client. And the advice I would give is, you don't know, in that moment, the people who you meet, you don't know how they may be able to help later down the line, what spaces that they'll be in, who the networks that they've built. And I just say, always keep an open mind to that. You might be sat in a networking room having a conversation, and they may not be able to help you there and then, or you might not see how they could help you. But later down the line, if you foster and nurture those relationships, it's crazy to think, what can happen in the future. So just keep an open mind.
And also, don't you think there's a certain element that people like doing business with people, and there's little pieces that have happened 5 years later, and you just don't realize it when you never know when those circles are going to come back and connect with each other, do you? So I completely resonates with me that you might as well be nice to everybody because you want people to be nice to you. And I can tell you that in my life, completely agree with you, Alea, that I've never had a problem with people not being nice to me. And you find that niceness has a habit of coming out of the woodwork when you need it most, because there's an awful lot of people who realize that you're there for them as well. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Naomi, guess what? You're next with the same question, funnily enough.
Well, I'm actually going to come at this slightly different, because I agree that there's been so many people on the journey that I couldn't sit here today and thank all of them, because there has just been so many people that even a small 10-minute conversation can make a huge impact on your journey. And what I would actually say is write a note and remember to tell that person that's helped you how it's helped you. And that would actually be my key thing, because I whenever I started, I was running 100 miles an hour at this, and I forgot to go back to these people. These people, it gave you introductions and they give you advice because they want to see you thrive.
Yeah.
So I now set a reminder. I have a task that after 3-4 weeks after the conversation, I'll go back to them, send them a quick email update and say, this is what's happened from our conversation. And it just lets them know. And then more can come out of it, or they're just involved. And I think it's really coming back to feedback to them, which is really important.
I might steal that in the nicest way, standing on the shoulders of giants, because I don't do that. And I'm trying to think, if I received that email, part of me is already going, I'd feel happy and charmed.
Yeah. And I can with life, you can easily forget. So having it set in a task, like Google Tasks is my go-to list of all the people that I need to feed back to. And it's really, really helpful. And Ian, also, there's a Q&A different section.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong window.
There is another question chat, just so you're aware.
And I've so Ben's asked a question. What more can be done around influencing and encouraging younger generations? What more can be done to Ben, I don't know. But my panel is smarter than me, so I'm hoping that they've got the answer that I lack. What more can we be doing, folks, to encourage the younger generations in the last 90 seconds that we have?
I'm going to quickly jump in.
Please.
I think I'll just a quick snippet is creating space for young people. So incubating them, if you're able to kind of fund something to do, a program, or, just creating that space for them to kind of think beyond and it moving into, 2023 and the new tech innovation, what's going on, educating, supporting and elevating.
Brilliant. Right, we've got 90 seconds left. I think we should really get ready to say goodbye to the room, or else we're going to be lost in mid-sentence. It's been a fantastic session for me. I want to say thank you to the room. Naomi, I need to make sure I send you an email in 2 weeks' time saying it was a pleasure working with you and get onto my
What happened?
Alicia, thank you. We enjoyed doing it. I think we've just had a bit of thanks from the room. I enjoyed working with all of you. Any more thoughts from the room before we run out of time?
I think I would just say pay it forward and invest in good karma. It comes back.
Definitely. It definitely does. It definitely does.
And never underestimate the power of just resharing somebody's stuff. Whether they're getting married, they've started a new business or launched a new product, just you resharing it, they notice. So it's just really small free acts can also make a big difference.
Brilliant. And be confident in when we ask for money. If you're going to connect on LinkedIn, please tell us that you saw us here. Otherwise, we're going to get 50 odd people hammering our LinkedIn, and I'll be going, where have these unknowns come from? So just add a note saying you heard us on this panel, and we'd really appreciate it. That's it, folks. I believe we're done. Our 45 minutes has come up, and enjoy the rest of the day, folks. It's been a pleasure.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Naomi. Thanks, Alaya.
Bye. Thanks all.
Bye.